let's preview AEW Revolution 2025. At the moment, it's a 10-match card with likely more to be announced, at least I'm sure for the 0 hour. So let's start things off actually this time a little bit differently from the top, perhaps. And we're going to start things off talking about Jon Moxley versus Cope. This one, I think, is tough to predict given a lot of audience dissatisfaction with the Death Riders storyline. I could see Tony listening to it and wanting to change course, but also mainly for me, the prospect of Christian Cage holding on to
just hovering in the background.
The contract and seeing him cashing in on Mox doesn't really make much sense, but cashing in on Cope obviously makes all the sense in the world. So can that be an element? Jay White is also there. What do you expect, Kate?
Kind of suspect Mox to retain because I don't know if Cope is the guy to dethrone him. And I guess particularly now that you do seem to be getting a little momentum behind the Death Riders, but yeah, there is absolutely an appetite for this to be gone. And Christian, he has not been on TV in a few weeks, and that does feel deliberate at this point. Like you're supposed to be forgetting that he exists, which none of us are. And Christian already took the TNT title off Cope in exactly this fashion, cashing in a guaranteed title shot that he had. Yeah, I am going to go.
At the very least, what's your official pick? Okay, Mox.
I'm going to say Mox.
I could definitely see the tease, right? And for even the tease to take place, I think Cope actually has to win. For me, I'm going to choose Cope for this one. And the question is whether or not he leaves the pay-per-view with it, or if we get the tease of the cash-in and somehow Cope is able to thwart it so that he escapes with the actual championship. Because I could see like Tony maybe wanting to actually build up to the actual match between the two. I also think like he'll probably want Cope to hold the championship for at least a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
Now let's also remember, like maybe the ultimate sort of destination for this Death Riders thing is maybe for a Darby versus Jon Moxley. Well, Moxley can still win the championship back and continue this campaign at some point.
That's true.
And you know, but it doesn't mean that you can't have people take it from him in the meantime. And I think Cope is one of those guys that I could see doing that. The Jay White element kind of makes things a little bit interesting. Can we see Jay White helping Cope or preventing him in this sort of scenario? What do you see?
Here's another wrench in the works. The removal of all of Moxley's henchmen.
With the exception of Yuta, who's still healthy. That's a maybe, yeah.
Now, who in particular has had an issue with Yuta in the last couple of months is Jay White. So I could see Yuta actually deciding to come back and help Mox, and yes, Jay intervening to take on Yuta again. The other thing, though, is that someone losing all of their henchmen is very often a ruse to introduce a new member. Who could that be? Got no idea, but that is a real possibility.
Could it be Jay White?
It could be White. The thing with White is
he's already in a faction.
Yeah, I feel though also two things. I feel he's too good of a promo to kind of be buried behind Mox. I mean, that is always his strength. The other thing with Jay and why I don't necessarily see him turning is I think the appearances of Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors are perhaps pointing towards a Bullet Club versus Jay faction, whatever form that takes for Forbidden Door.
Very interesting. Okay. So let's move down the card here, and we've got at least, this is not the official schedule or anything, but in my graphics at least, I got MJF versus Hangman Page. I've really enjoyed this build, Kate. You know, these two, as you mentioned in our review, one of MJF's best feuds, I have to say, like in at least a year, if not longer. No blemishes, in my opinion, at all, like in the interactions between these two. Hangman has continued to be in this sort of transition to becoming a full-on babyface after, you know, whatever he's been doing earlier this year. I think it's been very successful, and Page feels like one of the hottest guys in the entire company right now. Certainly has that main character type of aura attached to him.
Yeah.
You could say as much as maybe a Will Ospreay or a Swerve Strickland. What are your thoughts on this particular match?
I think Hangman takes this one because at this point there is a lot of background noise that whatever the build was with Darby and Mox, and that clearly seemed to be the direction. Not 100% sure why, given that Darby was going to be off TV for a few months. In the absence of Darby Allin, I feel like uh, a lot of fans have moved on that Hangman's the one they want to see the title, take the title off Mox. So I think that in order to get him up to that level, that is that he needs to win this one. Now, if he is the guy to take the title off Moxley, there is every reason to run this back with the title on the line.
Yeah, it makes things interesting because we know the winner of Ricochet and Swerve will be up next to challenge. And again, like not knowing the sort of world title situation and how that's going to unfold might have some effect on like who you might choose for this one as well. If Paige is somebody that you're trying to push to like be hot enough to challenge for a championship, maybe not at the next pay-per-view, but the pay-per-view after, that makes sense. But I would argue like MJF is sort of in need of like that big win too. I can see this feud continuing beyond this program, and for that
I
to happen,
mean, Hangman is the master of the 3-match arc.
yeah, and for that to happen, I think the heel should take the first one, perhaps. Do you expect Fire to be a part of this match after today's angle?
I mean, it's always a threat. The fact that they did put it right out there, and with Hangman, you're dealing with someone who usually has at least one psychotic bit during all of his matches. I think it's possible. I think it's possible that the match gets called when someone gets set on fire, and that therefore the ending's a little unresolved.
Okay, we shall see. We got Konosuke Takeshita taking on Kenny Omega for the AEW International Championship. Perhaps in ring the match. It's sort of up in the air, not necessarily, but one of the matches I could say we're all looking forward to the most. Who wins this one, and what do you expect from the match itself?
As much as I feel like Kenny almost has to win the match coming back, I feel like there's more value. Like there's more value to having him appear to be struggling and and having Takeshita take this one.
I agree. I totally agree. I would love Takeshita to sort of be the person that he can't beat. And who like Kenny Omega doesn't have one of those guys. Like, you know, Rock, like he kind of beats everybody or eventually beats everybody. But to have Konosuke Takeshita be the one person he can't beat, I think would be so awesome.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a match of the night?
Yes. Oh shoot! No, let me walk that back.
I'll ask you at the end.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll ask you at the end, okay? Because up next, we also have to talk about Ricochet versus Swerve Strickland, #1 contenders match for the AEW World Championship. We spoke a little bit about this in the actual review itself, but what is your final pick for actually who wins, and if you expect any other surprises to take place?
I think I'm going to say Swerve takes this one because I said Moxley takes the main event. So that I think you set that up. Now, is that your program for the next pay-per-view, which is it Double or Nothing that's next?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I don't even know if you let it go that long. Look, they have a lot of dynamites that function as miniature pay-per-views. Not that I'm saying that this match isn't pay-per-view worthy, but we'll see. So I'm going to say that Swerve takes this one. I think that someone in the chat is saying Dynasty is next.
Dynasty,
okay,
April.
So maybe that's
Yes,
for thank you very much for the correction there. So that could be something for Dynasty. Now, I think it is just possible that when Swerve gets that title shot, it's Ricochet that screws him out of it.
Interesting. Okay. I am picking. I'm picking Ricochet for this one, and I'm picking it via Prince Nana. Well, listen, the Nana thing is, I think, is certainly the main sort of like narrative driving force behind all of this. Can Swerve get the robe back for Prince Nana? Because Prince Nana has kind of given him an ultimatum, like you either get the robe back for me or I'm done with this, right? I think there's a
Mhm.
lot more interest in seeing Ricochet fail, get screwed out of it, perhaps, but ultimately fail to get the robe back. Robe is, I'm expecting to be destroyed here,
Mhm.
because Ricochet is making some upgrades, and I see the two breaking up, or at the very least,
Well,
beginning a storyline with the two of them starting to break up.
where I could see this going is Nana inadvertently costing Swerve this match. If you were going to go,
Yeah,
no, I just said that I think Swerve is
interesting.
going to win, but I could also see that this one's this pay per view has a lot of matches that could go either way.
Hmm. But for this one, I think I'm going with Swerve. So we shall see what happens, and that we'll see how it leads into, like,
Okay,
they're
I'm going with
connected too, of course, to the main event. So up next we've got here Mariah May versus Toni Storm for the AEW Women's Championship, the Hollywood ending. So sorry, clarify this. Is this like a stipulation match? Is this a false count or no
it's
DQ
yeah,
or anything?
basically no rules.
Gotcha. Okay, they're in LA. The Hollywood ending match. Who wins? Who takes this?
Tony retains.
I think so too. I think May's had an amazing, amazing like evolution, but the
Mhm.
division should be built around Tony Storm,
Yeah.
and I just hope for a very satisfying, conclusion to what has been
Mhm.
just an amazing year-long feud between these two.
And then the question of can Mariah May avoid falling into obscurity?
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. Well, as long as Monet has that TBS championship, I can't see May going for it, unless we get a Monet babyface turn eventually. So it kind of leaves at least like May without a belt to chase, but that doesn't mean she can't have an interesting storyline, which I hope she's able to
Mhm.
but then you also ask like who are these sort of dance partners she has, how much airtime is given, to a non-belt program.
Well, the other thing with her, though, what I will say is I think that you need to resuscitate her reasonably soon. But if this match is rough, and I think we all expect it to be, whoever loses, and we're both saying Mariah in this case, needs to be off TV for a while. But that's the fact that Tony just came back onto TV after a break is another reason why I think she's winning. I could see Mariah being out for a month or so after this
Mm-hmm.
match.
All right, and then up next, this is actually on. You know what? I'll go to this last because it's actually the 0 hour match. But let's talk about Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher in a steel cage. Great build so far. These two have had just an excellent program. And Kyle Fletcher, I think, has just been amazing. Honestly, it's been
Oh
amazing
my
to see
god.
his evolution and his dedication to this character and just to his like his putting on mass, and actually looking like a real main eventer. So what's the series so far? Fletcher has beaten Osprey. Osprey has, are they
Well,
1-1?
no. They had a match. I think one of Osprey's very first matches on Dynamite,
Right.
when they were both part of the Callis family, was just Don was setting Osprey up to fight the other members. Why not? We're going to make great TV. Osprey took that one. It was a very good match, and I
But
think
with
kind of
this incarnation of Kyle Fletcher in this
with
particular
this,
program,
the truly evil incarnation of Kyle Fletcher, you had the I can't remember which pay per view it was at, but
it
yeah,
was
you had the one.
yeah, so at World's End, the last one, it was
Yeah,
Osprey beating Fletcher. Full
yeah.
Gear was Fletcher beating Osprey. So they are 1-1. This is the rubber match. It's in a cage. Who takes it? Damn. Who
This
should
is
who should
difficult,
win this
isn't
one?
it?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Who should win this one?
This is hampered by the fact that I don't see what the story is for either of them going forward, and that is not to say that it doesn't exist, because I'm sure it does. I again tend to think that you've got Osprey versus Omega sort of simmering in the background eventually, which means that someone's turning heel. I'm not really sure, or do a double babyface match. They've it's not like they've never done that before. But who can Osprey can absolutely absorb losses. I just don't know. Like, at what
Has he
point does
absorbed too
he
many
absorb?
though?
That's
Has
what I
he
was gonna
absorbed too
say.
many?
Like, at some point he's gonna absorb too many, and he's Like,
Yeah.
but
Again, so much of it depends
never
on
lost his
like,
luster while he was there, and he was losing all the time.
yeah. It also depends on like, again, who's up next for the world title, and considering all the options that are on the table, I don't necessarily see Ospreay going for that world championship soon. Could he go though for the international championship that either Takeshita or Ospreay hold? Sorry, Omega.
I
Takeshita or Omega.
I feel there is money in Ospreay versus Omega. I think we did already see Ospreay versus Takeshita. Not that I don't want to see it again, but um, Ospreay versus Omega 3 is going to be a big deal when it
Mm,
happens because of the nature of the first two matches.
yeah.
So,
I'm
on the
I'm
other
going
hand,
with
like Fletcher does feel like that guy, as you said, who is willing to and able to take that next step up against a babyface champion, which they don't have a lot of right now. Um,
yeah. I,
I could,
I'm
yeah,
going with Will Ospreay. I
yeah,
think
me
Ospreay
too.
needs to ultimately win the feud. I think Fletcher has already gained so much, and he still has many
Hmm.
years left to get to that status. Whereas
Yeah,
Ospreay is already there now. You need
yeah.
to like get serious with the world title campaign for him starting now. The audience already recognizes him as that top guy, but now the booking I think needs to reflect it, and he needs to win ultimately this big feud.
Yeah,
Mark
I
Davis, of
agree.
course, Mark Davis also being an element to all of this as well. Do we get the payoff for this particular Mark Davis storyline tonight, or does that linger beyond this?
If if Davis were to turn on Fletcher and Ospreay were to win, that does open up the obvious match between Fletcher and Davis, and might allow Fletcher to get a very quick win back afterwards. So yeah, I see that. I can not fully turning, but at least maybe stopping Fletcher from doing something horrifying.
And then we've got Mercedes Moné versus Momo Watanabe TBS Championship. Do you see a title change for this one?
No, no.
Yeah, I don't either.
Mercedes, they're already team Mercedes versus Athena, so she holds the title till All In.
Expect the match to be great though. So there we go. And then we got the
Mm-hmm.
Outrunners taking on the Hurt Syndicate for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. Title change.
No.
Outrunners, upset of the year.
As much as I think it would be a warm, no, the Hurt Syndicate are the hot property right now. They're the hot tag champions that in a long time. So
All right.
keep going with that.
Then we got Kazuchika Okada versus Brody King to round out, I believe, all the matches on the main card, unless I might be missing one. But yeah, your thoughts on this one for the Continental Championship?
Okada retains.
Yes, Okada retains as well. Although, think about this for a second, okay? We kind of said it with Buddy Matthews. A lot of people thought that might have been a possibility that Matthews might have won the championship in his
I
particular
did.
hometown. You did. That's right. We're in a similar situation here, where Brody King in
Mm-hmm.
front of a hometown crowd. If you're going to like have Okada lose, it should arguably be against somebody who's like really going to be an up and coming talent. And I would even say King is more a bigger candidate for that spot than Buddy Matthews was. So I don't think it would be the craziest decision in the world to make the change.
It's not, and it occurs to me that I don't there's not I have predicted that every single title is staying on its holders, so I feel like at least one of them has to change. I think always in the background there is the specter of Okada versus Takeshita, which could be, if we're saying Takeshita retains, if Okada loses his belt, then going after Takeshita's is not crazy. But I think that of any of the matches that you're going to see Okada do, aside obviously from the rematch with Omega, I think the one versus Takeshita is going to be is going to be a hugely anticipated thing.
I'm gonna go with Brody King. I'm gonna gonna say that's the big shocker here. Big win for Brody King, maybe one that he'll be remembered for, but we shall see. Over to the 0 Hour, we've got only announced so far as I know, Big Boom AJ, Mark Briscoe, and Orange Cassidy teaming up against Johnny TV and MXM Collection. So don't know what does it really say about it, but I hope it's fun. I hope it's fun.
Yeah. The last one was fun. The Big Boom AJ stuff is not for me. I am not the target audience for this. However, getting Cassidy, I salute them for coming up with a way of getting Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe on the show.
What is the Venn diagram between people who understand Cecil B. DeMille references and the Big Boom AJ Costco guys references? I wonder.
Infinitesimally narrow.
Yeah. So those are our thoughts and our predictions for AEW Revolution. We have Matt Hahn in the chat who actually brings up a great point here. One other thing you should touch on is if there are any debuts with Speedball appearing. What do you think, Kate?
I think I have an idea how Speedball is debuting, and I could see it, I guess, on the 0 Hour or at the very beginning of the show, which is Caster coming out to have his open challenge, and I can see Speedball being the one to answer that.
I mean, the Caster thing almost seems like perfectly set up for something like that. I kind of prefer if that wasn't on the pay-per-view, to be honest with you, because I think by the end of the pay-per-view, we would forget about it. So I think that'd be more impactful on the TV coming out of it or one of the TVs coming up soon.
I think that's how it's going to debut. The other thing that I could see, that I almost expect to have added to the 0 Hour would be some kind of CMLL showcase.
All right, so those are our thoughts on the card for Revolution so far. I will be back on Sunday, right after the pay-per-view, to talk about it all with a returning John Pollock, who I expect to be tanned up, okay, looking like Kyle Fletcher with his shirt off. All right. So
is he coming in? I was going to say, is he coming in with his shirt off?
Yes, he is. Yes, and he'll be slapping me in the face, telling me to do it. Okay, do it for the Callis family. If you like this video, consider joining our Patreon, the Post Wrestling Cafe. Multiple bonus podcasts every week, ad-free shows, and access to our full archive. Otherwise, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Thank you for watching.